Hi dear students, how are you? I hope all of you are fine. Today we are going to start the chapter, that is chapter 3, Plant Kingdom. In the previous chapter, we looked at the broad classification of living organisms under the system proposed by Whittaker in 1969, wherein he suggested the 5 kingdom classification, namely Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia and Plantae. In this chapter, we will deal in detail with further classification within kingdom Plantae, popularly known as the plant kingdom. So dear students, first 2 lessons we discussed regarding basis of classification and all the topics related to that. Today in this chapter, that is mainly plant kingdom, we are going to deal in detail with further classification within that kingdom. So here we must stress that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over time. Once again say that we must stress here that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over time. Fungi and members of the Monera and Protista having cell walls have now been excluded from Plantae. Do earlier classifications place them in the same kingdom? See here the point what we have to understand that earlier kingdom Monera, Protista and even fungi. So now all of them were kept under same kingdom. But now, as we discussed the first point, the plant kingdom and its understanding has changed over time. According to that, now what happened? Fungi and members of the Monera and Protista, as they are having cell walls, have now been excluded. Excluded means you have to understand the word and its meaning. That is taken out from Plantae. That means from kingdom Plantae. What is excluded? Fungi, members of Monera and Protista are excluded. But earlier they were kept under the same kingdom. So, the cyanobacteria that are also referred to as blue-green algae are not algae anymore. So, cyanobacteria that are also referred to as blue-green algae are not algae anymore. Earlier it would have been kept as such. But now what happened? It's taken out from that classification system. In this chapter, we will describe Plantae under algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. So here we discussed regarding cyanobacteria and we told that they are also referred to as blue-green algae, but they are not algae anymore. So please note down some points related to that. Please write down cyanobacteria, also known as Cyanophyta, are a phylum of bacteria that obtain their energy through photosynthesis and are the only photosynthetic prokaryotes able to produce oxygen. The name cyanobacteria comes from the color of the bacteria. Once again see the points. Cyanobacteria, also known as Cyanophyta, are a phylum of bacteria that obtain their energy through photosynthesis and are the only photosynthetic prokaryotes able to produce oxygen. The name cyanobacteria comes from the color of the bacteria. Now let's see the next paragraph. Let's look at the classification within angiosperms to understand some of the concerns that influenced the classification systems. The earliest system of classification used only gross superficial morphological characters such as habit, color, number and shape of leaves, etc. See the point? What we are seeing here? Let us look at the classification within angiosperms to understand some of the concerns that influence the classification system. So whatever concerns that influence the classification system, for understanding that we have to see the classification within angiosperms. So according to that, the earliest system of classification used only what? Gross. Gross word means you have to understand total. Superficial means external. So in short, you have to understand that the earliest system of classification used only total external morphological characters. Which one? For example, habit, color, number and shape of leaves, etc. So they were based mainly on vegetative characters or on the androecium structure. This system was given by Linnaeus. So based on the classification, based on the structure of androecium, the classification was done and that system was given by Linnaeus. And such systems were known as artificial systems. So they separated the closely related species since they were based on a few characteristics. Because in this artificial system of classification, they were mainly dealing with vegetative characters or the androecium structure. And because of that basis, even some of the species, they were closely related, but only few characteristics were considered for classification. On the basis of that, they separated even closely related species. So this was a limitation of that artificial system of classification because they were considering only what? Either vegetative characters or androecium structure. On the basis of that, the classification they were doing. Also, the artificial systems gave equal weightage to vegetative and sexual characteristics. This is not acceptable. Why? Since we know that often the vegetative characters are more easily affected by the environment. So now, how a plant can be, where it is living, what is the habitat of that? So according to that, we cannot totally depend on the vegetative characters because on these vegetative characters, according to the climatical situations or conditions, as per the environmental situations, it can be easily affected. So we cannot consider only vegetative characteristics. So because of that, what happened? As it was not seeing convenient type of classification, one another system of classification developed. That is natural classification system. As against this means what to understand? As against artificial system of classification, natural classification systems developed, which were based on natural affinities among the organism and consider what? and considered not only the external features but also internal features like ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. So what is the point we are saying here? Once again you have to understand. As we are saying that as the artificial system of classification was not that much acceptable because they were considering only vegetative characteristics or embryonic structure. Because of that, it was noticed that even closely related species were kept separately. So as against this, natural classification systems developed and which were based on what? Natural affinities among the organisms, that means natural attraction among the organism, and consider what? Not only the external features but also internal features. So they were giving equal importance to external as well as internal features. Internal features, for example, ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. Such a classification for following plants was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Please underline the point. Underline the names of the scientists. We can call them as botanists who did a great study in this. Because natural system of classification, in that they were not only considering external features but also internal features like what? Ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. Such a classification for flowering plant was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. So here, such a classification for flowering plants means angiosperms, was given by whom? Two scientists, their names George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. So till now we have discussed about two types of classification. That is, first one artificial system of classification and second one natural system of classification. In natural system of classification, there were considering both external and internal features, and some of the internal features we discussed as ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry. So here these terminologies you have to understand. For that, please note down. First, what is ultrastructure? Write down. Ultrastructure means fine structure, especially within a cell, that can be seen only with the high magnification obtainable with an electron microscope. Once again, ultrastructure means fine structure, especially within a cell, that can be seen only with the high magnification obtainable with an electron microscope. Second internal feature we discussed, that is anatomy. Anatomy means you have to understand internal structure. Next, embryology. What is embryology? Please write down, note down the point. Embryology. Embryology is the branch of biology that studies the prenatal development of gametes, fertilization and development of embryos and fetuses. Once again, embryology is the branch of biology that studies the prenatal development of gametes, fertilization, and development of embryos and fetuses. Next, what is this prenatal development? Please write down. Prenatal development refers to the process in which a baby develops from a single cell after conception into an embryo and later a fetus. Once again, what do you mean by prenatal development? You have to understand. It refers to the process in which a baby develops from a single cell after conception into an embryo and later a fetus. Now, what do you understand by this conception? Conception means the union of sperm and ovum. That you are knowing. What is the word? What is the terminology for that? Yes, fertilization. Conception means we can say fertilization means the union of sperm and ovum. Now, phytochemistry. Please write down phytochemistry. It is the branch of chemistry concerned with plants and plant products. Once again, phytochemistry. It's the branch of chemistry concerned with plants and plant products. I think this paragraph is clear for you. Now let's move to the next paragraph. At present, phylogenetic classification systems based on evolutionary relationships between the various organisms are acceptable. So the earliest classification we told that regarding artificial classification system, then against of that developed a natural classification system. But now at present what we are saying that phylogenetic classification system based on what? Evolutionary relationships between various organisms are also acceptable. This assumes that organisms belonging to the same taxa. In the first two lessons, we already learned that taxa is a plural and it is the plural of which word? Taxon. Taxon means it's a rank, it's a category. In the taxonomic hierarchy, we are using the terminology what? Taxon. Simply means group. Okay, here this assumes that, what assumes that? Phylogenetic classification system which is based on evolutionary relationship between various organisms assumes that organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. So according to this type of classification system, which classification system? Phylogenetic classification system. What is assuming? That the organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. We now use information from many other sources too to help resolve difficulties in classification. So not only this artificial system of classification, natural system of classification, phylogenetic classification system, even we use now what? Information from many other sources too. Why? To help resolve difficulties in classification. Because as science and technology is developing, new organisms are finding out there. So we have to go in depth in that topic there. So to resolve the difficulties in classifications, we have to depend on many other sources also there. These become more important when there is no supporting fossil evidence. So these become more important when there is no supporting fossil evidence, because phylogenetic relationship we are saying, otherwise phylogenetic classification system we are saying there, and their evolutionary relationship between various organisms acceptable we are saying that. But in that case, by chance, if fossil is not available, so then what is the problem is arising? So we have to depend on other sources also there. So these become more important when there is no supporting fossil evidence. Numerical taxonomy, which is now easily carried out using computers, is based on all observable characteristics. It's very important topics now we are covering there. Please note down, you have to listen very carefully. What we are saying, numerical taxonomy. Earlier we discussed what is taxonomy. Taxonomy means it's a branch of science which deals with classification. So here we are saying numerical taxonomy. What is that? Numerical, from the word you can understand, related to number. Numerical taxonomy, which is now easily carried out using computers, is based on all what? It is based on all observable characteristics. Number and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are then processed. So with the help of computer, now what has become easy? What is doing in that? Number and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are then processed. In this way, each character is given equal importance and at the same time, hundreds of characters can be considered. As we are doing with the help of computer, what we can do, even hundreds of characters can be considered, because for that each character what is given, equal importance is given. And the next is coming cytotaxonomy. Cyto, the word related to cell. Cyto, okay, cytotaxonomy, that is based on cytological information like chromosome number, structure, behavior. So once again, cytotaxonomy, that is based on what? Cytological information. As you know, the structure of a cell, and inside that nucleus is there and inside that chromosome is present. So in cytotaxonomy, that is based on what? Based on cytological informations like what? Chromosome number, structure and behavior. Another one is coming, that is chemotaxonomy. What is it? Chemotaxonomy, that uses the chemical constituents of the plant to resolve confusions. So if we have got a new plant, we have to study about that. We have to understand the characteristics of that. We have to go in detail of that plant. So if no any other evidence is there, so we can go through chemotaxonomy, and according to that, what is happening in that, it is using the chemical constituents of the plant, and whatever confusions to resolve that point is getting considered. So they are also used by taxonomists these days. So nowadays, taxonomist, that means whomsoever dealing with taxonomy. What is taxonomy? It's a branch of science which deals with classification. So whomsoever the scientists who they are dealing with taxonomy, they are known as taxonomist. So nowadays taxonomist not only considering which one? They are not only considering easily observable characters, for example external characteristics, then internal characteristics, even they are seeing phylogenetic classification system, and above all even they are considering numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy and chemotaxonomy. Why all these points considering there? Because whatever difficulty is there, to resolve that we have to depend many sources. So here we have discussed regarding different types of classification systems. First one, artificial system of classification. Second, natural system of classification. Third, phylogenetic classification. And in that we discussed that to resolve difficulties in classification, by chance if the evidence of fossil is not there, so we have to depend many other sources such as numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy and chemotaxonomy. In numerical taxonomy we told that there what is considering It is easily carried out using computers, is based on all observable characteristics, and at a time hundreds of characteristics can be considered because codes are given, data are processing there. In the computer it is saved there. And cytotaxonomy, that is based on cytological informations like chromosome numbers, structure and behavior. And chemotaxonomy, that uses the chemical constituents of the plant to resolve the confusions. So nowadays taxonomists use all these methods there. So this introductory paragraph is completing here. Now we are going to the topic, that's of our chapter coming algae. So this chapter we can see that mainly we have to deal in detail with algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, plant life cycles and alternation of generations. So let's move to the first topic, that is algae. So regarding algae, what you are having the idea, what you are knowing about that? What are algae? Yes, algae are simple plant bodies. So see the first point, algae are chlorophyll bearing, simple, thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic, that is both freshwater and marine organisms. What are algae? Algae are chlorophyll bearing, simple, thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic organisms. First of all, chlorophyll bearing. Who else is having chlorophyll? You know that animal is having chlorophyll on the body? No. Who is having? Plants are having. And what is the use of that? Because of the presence of chlorophyll, the plants are able to do photosynthesis. So here algae are chlorophyll bearing. So we can understand, in short, they are autotrophs. And simple, they are not having well defined plant body like root, stem, like that parts are not there. Simple. Thalloid. So what is thalloid? You have to understand, thalloid means, write down, a plant body that is not differentiated into stem, leaves and lacks true roots and a vascular system. So what you are understanding from the word thallus? Once again see the point. Thallus, a plant body that is not differentiated into stem and leaves and lacks true roots and a vascular system. So in short we can say that undifferentiated plant body. And autotrophic, as I told you that as they are chlorophyll bearing, obviously autotrophs. And largely aquatic. Most of the algae are aquatic, means they are found both in freshwater and marine. They occur in a variety of other habitats. So they are not only found in aquatic conditions, even they are found where also moist stones, soils and wood. So wherever algae are found, they are found in both freshwater and marine, and even they are found in other habitats such as moist stones, soils and wood. Some of them also occur in association with fungi. This you already learnt. Association of algae and fungi is known as what? Lichen. What is lichen? The association of algae with fungi is known as lichen. And even algae is having association with animal. It's very strange to hear, na? You listen. Some algae, they are having some relation with the animals also. How it is the association, you see? Some algae are having association with animals. For example, sloth bear. sloth beer and algae. How the association is there? So what in this paragraph we explained? First of all, what are algae? And what is the habitat of that? And what is the association of that with others? So once again see the point. Algae are chlorophyll bearing, simple, thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic organisms. They occur, means they found in a variety of other habitats such as moist stones, then soils and wood. Some of them also occur in association with fungi. That is, special name is that you know that the association of algae with fungi is known as lichen. And some algae are having association with some animals, for example, sloth bear. So how the association? Please write down. Algae in association with sloth, means sloth bear, obtaining shelter and a good supply of water as sloth fur absorbs water extremely readily. Listen once again. Algae in association with the sloth, obtaining shelter and a good supply of water as sloth fur absorbs water extremely readily and providing in return camouflage and extra nutrients. Once again, and providing in return camouflage and extra nutrients via diffusion and absorption through the hair and skin. So once again see how the association is there, how they are helping each other. The algae, which one is in association with the sloth bear, what they are obtaining? They are obtaining shelter and even they are getting good supply of water. How? Because sloth bear's fur absorbs water extremely readily and they are providing in return what? Algae are providing in return what to sloth bear? They provide camouflage. Camouflage means you have to understand it's an adaptation of animals to escape from the enemies. And next point is what? They are giving extra nutrients. So whatever algae preparing as their autotrophs there, they can do photosynthesis. So whatever nutrients they are making, that extra nutrients through via diffusion, who is also getting the benefit of that? Sloth bear is also getting the benefit, and this diffusion and absorption through where? Through the skin and the hair. So both of them are helping each other. So this is a good association of algae and sloth bear. Now the next paragraph. The form and size of algae is highly variable. It's not of all equal size and it's not of equal size or shape. The size ranges from the microscopic unicellular forms like Chlamydomonas. Please, you have to listen very carefully because all these points, all these examples are very important for your NEET. So, please underline the points also there. What we are saying in this point, the form and size of algae is highly variable. The size ranges from the microscopic unicellular forms like Chlamydomonas to colonial forms like Volvox and to the filamentous form like Ulothrix and Spirogyra. And a few of the marine forms such as scalps form massive plant bodies. So in algae we can see the form and its size, it is ranging highly. So the form and size of algae is highly variable. The size ranges from microscopic unicellular. So for example, if the question is asking which is the microscopic unicellular algae. So what the name you have to remember? Chlamydomonas. Give an example of colonial form of algae. Volvox. Filamentous form of algae. Ulothrix and Spirogyra. And which is a marine form of algae? That is kelps. And what is its unique characteristics? Because they form massive plant bodies. As compared to all other algae, these kelps form massive plant bodies and they are marine forms. What's the name? Kelps. So here many examples we discussed. Unicellular, microscopic, Chlamydomonas. Colonial forms, Volvox. Filamentous forms, Ulothrix and Spirogyra. And marine form, example, kelps. You can see in the figure, many algae are given here. Green algae, brown algae, red algae. So now with one topic we will go through that in detail. Let's move to the next paragraph. The algae reproduce by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. So the mode of reproduction, otherwise the method of reproduction, as we discussed earlier and even in 10th standard you have learned that mainly asexual reproduction is there, sexual reproduction is there and vegetative reproduction is there. So in the case of algae, here we can say that they are having all the three types of methods in the case of reproduction. The algae reproduce by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. What is happening in that? Each fragment develops into a thallus. What is happening? As we discussed earlier, algae are chlorophyll bearing simple thalloid. So here the same point you have to understand. In the case of vegetative reproduction of algae, that is mainly occurring by fragmentation. In that fragmentation, what is happening? Each fragment develops into a thallus. What do you mean by thallus? You already noted down. What is that? Yes, a plant body that is not differentiated into stem and leaf and lacks true roots and a vascular system. Asexual reproduction is by the production of different types of spores. Dear students, all these points are very important. Please note down the points and please you have to underline the important points, whatever I am telling you now. Asexual reproduction is by the production of what? Different types of spores. The most common being the zoospores. So which is the most common asexual spores? Zoospores. They are flagellated. So you have to understand, as they are having flagella, these flagella helping them for movement. Motile means moving. And on germination they give rise to new plants. So asexual reproduction is by what? The production of different types of spores. And which is the most common spores? Zoospores. And how they are? They are flagellated. And on germination, these zoospores gives rise to what? New plants. Sexual reproduction takes place through fusion of two gametes. Sexual reproduction takes place through what? As you know that sexual reproduction means obviously there is fusion happens there. Male gamete and female gamete fuses. So here two gametes are getting fused. And these gametes can be flagellated and similar in size. So what we are seeing here, in the case of sexual reproduction, what is happening? Sexual reproduction takes place through fusion of two gametes. And these gametes can be flagellated. They can have flagella. That means they can move. and they can be of similar in size. Means both the gametes can have similar size. So that is found in the case of Chlamydomonas. Or non-flagellated but similar in size. So size similar, that is same for Chlamydomonas case also and Spirogyra case. But only the difference where it's coming. In the case of Chlamydomonas, these gametes, they are flagellated. But in the case of Spirogyra, these gametes are similar in size, but they are not having flagella. But anyhow, as they are having similar size of gametes, so such reproduction is known as isogamous. What is it known as? Isogamous. Iso means same. Gamous here means you have to understand gametes of similar size. Now fusion of two gametes dissimilar in size, as in some species of Chlamydomonas, is termed as anisogamous. So if the gametes are not of similar size, so we can call it as anisogamous. Now the next is fusion between one large non-motile, that means static, female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete is termed oogamous. In the case of volvox and fucus, which type of sexual reproduction is there? Oogamous. Why it's known as oogamous? There are also fusion of two gametes. But what the condition? Fusion between one large non-motile, not moving, that is static female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete. It is known as oogamous. Example, volvox and fucus. So here we were discussing regarding the reproduction in the case of algae. So we discussed the algae reproduce by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation and each fragment develops into a thallus. Asexual reproduction is by the production of different types of spores. The most common spores, that is known as zoospores, and they are flagellated spores. The most common being zoospores, they are the flagellated spores, and on germination they are giving rise to new plants. And next we discuss regarding sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction takes place through fusion of two gametes. These gametes can be flagellated and similar in size in the case of Chlamydomonas, or non-flagellated, that means not motile but similar in size in the case of Spirogyra. Such reproduction is called isogamous. Now fusion of two gametes dissimilar in size, as in some species of Chlamydomonas, is termed as anisogamous. Fusion between one large non-motile static female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete is termed oogamous in the case of volvox and fucus. So in the case of algae, when we are discussing regarding sexual reproduction, we can see three different types of reproduction: isogamous, anisogamous and oogamous. So you have to learn this topic very clearly there. It's very important topic. Okay dear students, till now we were discussing regarding algae. Actually, what are algae? What about its size? And regarding its reproduction. So now we are going to learn a very important topic related to algae, that is how they are useful to man. And this paragraph is very important. Many questions can be asked from this. Each and every line is equally important. Each and every name and the examples are equally important. So please listen very carefully and note down the points. Underline the important points there. See, algae are useful to man in a variety of ways. At least half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae through photosynthesis. You just see that point. What is the importance of algae? From that itself it's clear for us. At least half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae through what? Photosynthesis. Already we discussed that algae are chlorophyll bearing. They are autotrophs. They can do photosynthesis by themselves. So here we are saying what the point? At least a half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae through which process? Photosynthesis. Being photosynthetic, they increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. And connected to that, the next point also equally important. As they are photosynthetic, who are photosynthetic? Algae. Being photosynthetic, what they are doing? They increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. So wherever algae is there, that area, that surrounding area will be clean because carbon dioxide is absorbed by them for doing photosynthesis and they release what? Oxygen in the immediate surrounding. Next point. They are of paramount importance as primary producers of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. See the point? They are of paramount importance. They are of paramount means you have to understand very, very important. So they are of paramount importance as primary producers of energy-rich compounds. They are the primary producers of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. So whatever food cycle is developing in the aquatic condition and the basis of the food cycle is what? Mainly the energy-rich compounds. And who produces that? That is by algae. Algae are of paramount importance because they are the primary producers of energy-rich compounds and these energy-rich compounds form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. Next point, many species of Porphyra. How to pronounce that? You see the point? See the name? Many species of Porphyra. Porphyra. Okay. Laminaria and Sargassum are among the 70 species of marine algae used as food. See that? Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are among the 70 species of marine algae which one is used as food. First point we told that at least half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on the earth is carried out by algae through photosynthesis and being photosynthetic, what they are doing? They are increasing the level of the dissolved oxygen in the immediate environment. Second point we told that they are of paramount importance because they are the primary producers of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. The third point we told that many species of Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are among the 70 species of marine algae used as food. Next, certain marine brown and red algae produce large amounts of hydrocolloids. Hydrocolloids means you have to understand water holding substances. So see the point. Certain marine brown and red algae produce what? Large amounts of hydrocolloids. That's a gel-like substance. And example is algin produced by brown algae and carrageen produced by red algae which are used commercially. Please understand that as they are having water holding capacity. Means water holding substances. That's known as hydrocolloids, gel-like substances. So who produces that? Certain marine, brown and red algae produce what? Hydrocolloids or water holding substances. And that hydrocolloid produced by brown algae is known as algin, and which is produced by red algae is known as carrageen. These are used commercially. Another point, agar, A-G-A-R, agar, one of the commercial products obtained from Gelidium and Gracilaria are used to grow microbes and in preparation of ice creams and jellies. Yummy, na? Ice creams and jellies. And what is used there? Agar. And it is one of the commercial products obtained from which one? Gelidium and Gracilaria. They are algae. So they are used to grow what? Microbes. And even in the preparation of ice creams and jellies. Next, chlorella and spirulina are unicellular algae rich in proteins and are used as food supplements even by space travelers. You just imagine the importance of algae. Chlorella and spirulina are unicellular algae. They are rich in proteins and are used as food supplements even by space travelers. So see this paragraph. Near about 6 to 7 points or uses we have discussed about algae. We are thinking that algae are nothing, no any importance of that. But how they are useful to man? Algae are useful to man in a variety of ways. First point, at least half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on earth is carried out by what? Algae. And for what purpose they are taking? For photosynthesis. And being photosynthetic, what they are doing? They are increasing the level of dissolved oxygen in the immediate environment. Second, which point we discussed? They are of paramount importance. Why? Because they are the primary producers of energy-rich compounds. And these energy-rich compounds form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. Next point we discussed, that is, many species of Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are among the 70 species of marine algae used as food. Certain marine brown and red algae produce large amount of hydrocolloids, that is water holding substances like algin produced by brown algae and carrageen by red algae, which are used commercially. Agar, one of the commercial products obtained from Gelidium and Gracilaria, are used to grow microbes and in the preparation of ice creams and jellies. Chlorella and spirulina are unicellular algae. They are rich in proteins and are used as food supplements even by space travelers. So here, from each line, questions can be asked, examples can be asked. You have to remember that. Please note down the points. You have to read the topic, try to understand the concept, make it very clear. In the next session, we will learn about the division of algae. Thank you so much for the session.